How's it going, Dave?
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kalamazoo Deputy City Manager Jeff Chamberlain, and welcome to the Kalamazoo City Commission Committee of the Whole meeting of Monday, May 3rd, 2021. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the City of Kalamazoo's Facebook page, as well as also on the City of Kalamazoo's YouTube channel. You can listen in live to Kalamazoo's meeting by calling area code 269-552-6425 and entering meeting ID number 951-6554-2002 when prompted. And you may also leave a public comment for tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting by calling area code 269-226-6573. And I'd like to turn tonight's meeting over to Mayor David Anderson.
Thank you very much. Once again, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain, I appreciate it. Very, very nice to see everybody again. For some reason, it seems like it's been a while. So I'd like to call this Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, May 3rd to order. Clerk Borling, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here in the great city of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Hess.
Here also in the great city of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Knott.
Here, Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Pradle.
Present in the city of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Urban.
Here in Kalamazoo.
Vice Mayor Griffin.
Here in the city of Kalamazoo.
Mayor Anderson.
Here in Kalamazoo. City Manager Ritzma, are there any communications?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. DCM Chamberlain, are there any public comments?
No, there are not tonight.
All right. No special agenda items, I assume, so the first thing on our agenda is review of items for upcoming City Commission meetings. Is that you, City Manager Ritzma? Oh, that's DCM Chamberlain? All right.
DCM Chamberlain, yep.
Just a real quick note that at our next Committee of the Whole meeting for the City Commission on Monday, May 17th, we'll have a discussion with Clerk Borling. We've got some topics that we would like to discuss regarding voting accessibility. So that will be the topic of the Committee of the Whole meeting in 2 weeks. And then we're tentatively scheduled for the Committee of the Whole meeting on June 7th, Monday at 5 o'clock, to begin the discussion about the American Recovery Act, also known as the stimulus funds, that we are expecting further guidance here within the next couple of weeks, and we'll be beginning those discussions with the City Commission in beginning of June. So, and that is all, sir.
Thank you very much. Two very, very important conversations. I appreciate that. So we have a work session tonight, and it is on public safety, group violence intervention. Manager Ritzma, are you kicking that off?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. And just wanted to kick things off tonight. We want to discuss the group violence intervention program that's been ongoing and get an update on that, as well as discussion around the gun violence that we're continuing to see throughout the city. So I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Chief, David Boyson. We have here with us Chief Coakley has joined us, and our Assistant Chiefs, Matt Huber and Victor Green, and then Deputy City Manager Laura Lamb's also here to, if there are any questions or discussion around the 4 pilots around gun violence that we have going on. So I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Boyson.
Thank you, sir, and good evening, city leadership, mayor, vice mayor, and commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to come discuss this very important and troubling topic that we're all facing together as a community. For those who don't know, I'm David Boyson, and Deputy Chief of Public Safety. And I'm also here with our group violence intervention team and some people that have been involved in group violence intervention. I'm going to start the presentation by covering the data, what we're seeing out there, what we're gathering on the nature of this problem and the extent of it, and again, some troubling trends that we've been seeing here recently. I'm going to start with that. We're going to go over a couple of things that we've done to address this. One of those being group violence intervention, which I really think is the key to keeping our violence in the city under control. And I want to introduce Michael Wilder, our GBI coordinator, and he will introduce his crew that he has with him here right now.
How you doing, y'all? My name is Michael Wilder, the GBI Group Violence Intervention Coordinator for the city of Kalamazoo. I have some young men with me who have, a little bit of a checkered past, but they've been dealing with GBI now for a period of time. And I just like them to introduce themselves for now, but they'll later tell you what impact GBI has had on their lives. Your name?
I'm the Crayon Sterling.
How you doing? I'm Jordan Watts.
How you doing? I'm Montane Wiley.
All right, well, thank you, Mike. And again, thank you for everyone for being here. We really, really appreciate it because I can't tell the story like they're going to be able to tell the story. So I'll get into that if I can screen share here, and hopefully you'll be able to see here. Okay, can everyone see my screen? All right, that's a good start. Thank you. What's going on here? Okay. The first thing I just again, I'm going to start by going over some data here because I think it's hard to really grasp how big a problem this is until you see some of the data behind it. This is just the first 4 months of the year. So from January, and this just goes to April 29th, we had some additional incidents since then. But these are shots fired calls. So this is someone calling dispatch saying and reporting gunfire. And so as you can see, so far this year, we've had a total of 245 reports of gunfire at various parts of the city. So that's an average of, again, about 60 calls for shots fired a day, which is very concerning and a troubling trend. We know there are a lot of firearms out there. These are the guns that we've seized so far this year. So we've seized just in the first 4 months of the year, 158 firearms off the street. So a little over a gun a day. And to put that in perspective, I've been doing this job for almost 26 years. And when I first started, it was rare to get a gun. If you got a gun a week, that was a good accomplishment to get off the street. Now we're getting almost 1 or 2 a day. Again, a lot of guns. I think last year we seized just over 400 guns for the entire year. So gun seizures are continuing to go up, and there's a lot of reasons I believe for that, but there's a lot of availability of firearms out there right now. These are our shooting numbers of shooting victims for the year. The numbers don't really put the feeling into it that we have by seeing the faces of these victims and the trauma that goes around these numbers. But just to look at the numbers, so far we've had 19 non-fatal shootings and 3 fatal shootings already this year. Just a comparison, last year was the worst year we ever had, and we had a lot going on with COVID last year. We're still coming out of it, but last year we had a total of 75 non-fatal shootings and 13 homicides. The year before, in comparison, we had 31 non-fatal shootings and 7 homicides. So again, we're still trending high, but we're still coming out of COVID and still greatly impacting really the overall criminal justice system, and a lot going on with school programs, after school programs, and things like that. And on top of the shootings, I just want to put this out there. These are cases generated, criminal and non-criminal cases. So this isn't just calls for service. This is where we write either non-criminal or criminal case. And you can see the call volume is very high. So we are averaging 1,500 calls a month, cases a month, where we're writing cases. We average about 400 calls for service a day, police, fire, and EMS calls. So on top of this big problem of gun violence, we're just have a large volume of work and a lot of demands on the officers' times, which also stresses the system. Again, that's just a lot of cases written in just 1 month. Like I said, in the month of April, we had 1,500 cases, and we're not even into the summer months yet. I kind of really want to highlight this disturbing trend. This is the age of our shooting victims for this year so far. And if you can see, basically since February, we've had a really disturbing trend where our victims are younger and younger. 19, 17, 15, 17. So our last 2 shooting victims were 16 and 17 years old, or 15 and 17 years old, so very, very young. We had a 17-year-old who was shot multiple times just a few days ago, and he survived luckily, but he is currently paralyzed from the waist down, so just tragic. We had a 16-year-old that was shot multiple times, hit in both legs. He survived, and we had a 17-year-old that was shot and killed. That was just in the last, few days, and it's just very disturbing, the age of these victims that we're seeing. And then we're going to speak on that here as we go forward. That's the numbers. I kind of want to get into what we're seeing behind the numbers, because the numbers really don't tell the whole story. So what we're going to get into now is some videos and footage that we've obtained from social media. And I want you to know that these are all obtained within the last month or less. This is not old information. This is not stuff that was taken from across the country. This was right here in Kalamazoo within the last month of disturbing things that we've been seeing. So viewer discretion is advised. It's graphic. It's hard to watch some of this, but I think it's important to see the trauma that's going on out there with our community, with our officers responding to these calls, and the victims and their families. The thing that we're continuing to see is really this arms race, and we talked about this actually a little bit last year with the commission, and this is really continuing to take off, where it's not just whether you have a gun now, it's whether you have a gun with a high capacity magazines, or if you have a gun, well, then you should get a rifle too. And okay, you got a rifle, now you need a rifle with a drum magazine with a 100-round capacity. This is what we are seeing out here, very common. And what concerns me is we're seeing a lot of young individuals. These pictures I'm showing you now are all people under the age of 18 with these guns, and they're just openly putting on their social media and sharing this information. This is stuff taken off public source information on social media. So it's really concerning, and what really concerns me is the trend we're seeing where we have younger people not only with high capacity firearms, but a lot of times they are intoxicated, under controlled substances, and not in their right frame of mind. And so every day it's on the mind here of our leadership at public safety that our officers are out there responding to 60 calls a month on shots fired, seizing a lot of weapons, and the chances of an encounter with a youth armed with a gun is very high right now. And it's very concerning to us, and we all know how devastating that would be for our community if we had a bad interaction with a youth armed with a gun. And it just really concerns me that this is so prevalent out there. Again, this is what I was talking about. This is a rifle with 2 drum magazines. So this is over 100 rounds of rifle ammunition in these magazines. This type of ammunition will penetrate a bulletproof vest, will penetrate walls of houses, vehicles, just very dangerous to have on the street. So you see a lot of these rifles and other drum magazine. And again, it's openly posting this stuff on social media. We blurred their faces out to protect their identities, but on social media, their faces weren't blurred. They put it out there for everyone to see. Again, another rifle, handgun, rifle with a tactical scope on it, rifles, lasers, they are they're more armed than our average patrol officer out here with the type of firepower that we are seeing. Again, handgun, extended magazine, and this face is blurred, but this kid is very, very young, and he's posting this on social media. This one was a fight that happened at New Horizon. New Horizon is an apartment on the east side of Kalamazoo. We've had 3 people shot there so far this year. So violence is really increasing in that area. I know Michael Wilder and his team have been working very hard with outreach in that area, but we're seeing a lot of youth involved in fights. So this fight that I'm about to show you was again posted on social media, and this was on April 19th. 2 days later, we had the 16-year-old that I was talking to you about that was shot at 19 times and hit in the leg twice. That was involving the same group of individuals. So you can see how a fight on social media gets posted and shared and leads to additional violence. And so not only is it traumatic enough for this individual that gets assaulted in this video, that's traumatic. But then when it gets posted and shared on social media, that adds more trauma to this young man. And it's that cycle of something bad happens, it's on social media, and there's retaliation is what we're seeing. So you can see in that video, not only was he, 2 or 3 on 1, but the guy had a handgun waving around, and luckily he didn't accidentally squeeze off a round. Just kind of how our team here works, once we became aware of that video, and we became aware on this doing canvassing after the shooting that we had 2 days later. And we started doing canvassing with our community policing officers, with our GBI team, and someone shared this video with us. We were able to identify that person with the gun who was on juvenile probation. And just kind of how the system is working right now, what's working against us is he had an A&D order, which is a warrant for a juvenile, like a warrant to arrest a juvenile. But because of COVID, juvenile home is not accepting people on A&D orders. We can't arrest him on that A&D order and lodge him right now. And what's worse is some of these kids that are on probation, they show up, they have a court hearing and they miss their court hearing. There's no repercussions, they're not violated because of the COVID rules. So because of this, we knew through our GBI team that we had to cool this off. That individual with the gun, we had to get him at least off the street in detention just to calm this down, so we didn't have more people hurt. And so we reached out to the prosecuting attorney who deals with the juvenile crimes. We were able to get a warrant for him for this assault, and we were able to arrest one of the officers. Saw him, he fled, fleeing and eluding. We were able to track him down and arrest him. And because we had that additional warrant, we were able to lodge him over the weekend. Had we not had that warrant, even for the fleeing and eluding and the A&D order, he would have been released by 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. So because of this new charge, we were able to at least get him detained and help calm this down to prevent victims. But it just adds another layer of problems in trying to get ahead of this stuff with all the COVID restrictions. This is another similar incident that we've been seeing a lot lately.
What the fuck? We got it. Come on.
So again, it's these type of things on social media that leads to other things. This this video, we just recently seized related to one of our investigations. And this is a 17-year-old in the front seat. And this, as you can see in this video, this is broad daylight. Not worried about it at all. And we know that this individual is involved in stealing cars, and in particular looking for guns that people leave unsecured in cars, and steals those guns. And you can see he has 4 handguns in this. So just the amount of firepower and the amount of violence is really disturbing amongst our youth. Because one thing that GBI has been very successful at is dealing with our group involved individuals who we were dealing with in the previous years, right? Those are people in their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s. Those individuals are not driving this violence that we've seen this spike in. Who's driving this recent violence are 15, 16, and 17-year-old young people. And so that's kind of the trend that we've seen since really since February is when it really started. So these are just talking about firepower. These are just guns we've seen since March 1st, okay? And you can see the firepower. This up in the upper right-hand corner is what they call a Draco. This is basically a rifled pistol that shoots rifle rounds, drum magazines. We would never see this before. But these are common now. Sawed-off shotguns, high-capacity magazines. Again, Uzi with a extended magazine. So just a lot of firepower out there. So with all these guns out there, one thing that we do see now is that they do leave evidence behind. So when you shoot a gun, a semi-automatic gun or rifle, it leaves a shell casing behind. That's the spent cartridge from a bullet. These are the amount of shell casings we've seized since January 1st. And so we know, I mean, we have shots fired calls. A lot of times they're shots fired. Sometimes it could be fireworks. Sometimes it could be a car backfiring. We know when we see shell casings, there was a gun fired at that scene. And these are just the ones we've seized. Obviously, we don't find all the shell casings. You know, they're hidden. Maybe someone goes back and collects them. But these, or if people use revolvers, we don't get those. But these are what we've seized. And you can see in just the month of April, we recovered 156 shell casings from the streets in the city of Kalamazoo. So just a lot of shots being fired. 534 total casings recovered as of April 29th. And we've had a couple of incidents over the weekend. And just to highlight, just over this last weekend, we had on Sunday, May 2nd, we had shots fired 900 Clinton. Male was reported shooting at a female with her child. We located a discarded .380 handgun and a sweatshirt from that scene and some shell casings. Saturday, May 1st, we had multiple dispatch calls for shots fired at Fraternity Village in California. Officers located 19 casings from 2 different guns and 2 live rounds, and 1 apartment was struck by gunfire. So that was just last weekend. So there's even more to add to this that are not on here. But why I mention how shell casings are important, because now that they are a tool for us to use to identify who our active shooters are. We know that there are a lot of people out there carrying guns, but what we need to do is identify and focus our resources on those who are actively shooting in our community. This is a map of recovered casing hotspots, and this is the entire city of Kalamazoo. And as what we've seen so far in March and April is the East Side and Edison are the 2 areas that have really had a lot of incidents of these casings recovered. Which when we talk about New Horizon and the youth groups out there, that would be why we have so many in that East Side neighborhood. So one of the things we have at Public Safety, and I want to share with the commission, is a NIBIN machine. That's the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. We were able to partner with the federal government, and they actually provided this piece of equipment to Public Safety. This is really a big deal, because we're one of only 3 local agencies in the state of Michigan that have a NIBIN machine. And the other is Oakland County, and the other one's Detroit and Kalamazoo. So we're very fortunate to have this. This is a very expensive piece of technology, but what this does is each casing that is left at the scene is like a fingerprint. It has a unique identifier. And we can identify if we see a shell casing at one scene, if they match another, or even more importantly, we have a bullet trap now that was provided to us by the ATF. So if we seize a handgun from someone, we can test fire in the bullet trap, take that casing, run it through our NIBIN machine, and see if that gun has been used in any recent shootings. Before, we had to send our casings to the state police, and the results would be 2 to 3 week delay, sometimes more. And obviously, as an investigative tool, if you have a 3-week delay in that information, it's usually of limited value at that point. But now, because we have this machine in-house, we are able to get results within a day, or if it's an immediate situation like the other day when we had a shooting victim, we were able to put an urgent request in, and we were able to get those results back within an hour, which is a great tool for us. This is kind of how it works. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, first we have to triage these bullets to see if they came from different guns, same guns, identify the ones that are the best candidates to run through the machine. Then the officer puts them through the IBIS, that's the Integrated Ballistic Information System computer. It scans the cartridge and marks unique identifiers to that casing. That goes to NIBIN, and we get the results back to see if that shell matches another one in the system. So it's a very powerful tool, but it fits into our mission at Public Safety, which is focusing on those individuals, again, who are driving the violence and shootings, and allowing us to focus, like I said, our enforcement resources on those shooters, and other resources like outreach, and things like that on people that maybe get caught up, but aren't driving the shooting, if that makes sense. And Michael will talk about that. This is a case example I wanted to give with a NIBIN to show how this works for us. So in March, our crime reduction team stopped a vehicle with 2 men in it. Each had a gun. We had a 22-year-old Kalamazoo resident with a 9mm handgun in his possession in that vehicle. He had prior felony convictions. He had been sentenced to a shooting prior, was on parole for shooting weapons. And the reason our crime reduction team was targeting this individual is because he was confirmed by multiple sources to be involved in numerous shootings since January. So we knew he was a trigger puller. He was a shooter. The other individual in the car was only 17 years old. He had 80 police contacts. He was a suspect in several recent shootings and robberies, and was involved in a shooting on the rocks where an individual was shot in the stomach. And then most recently, April 26th, April 29th, he was shot. So just a few days ago, he was shot multiple times. And that's one individual I told you about that is now paralyzed. Well, again, this goes to show you that yesterday's shooting suspect is tomorrow's victim and vice versa. We had arrested him for this charge. And kind of the way the system works now is we arrested him with that gun back in March. He immediately got released on a bond with $500 bond, and he was out. And now he's, like I said, been the victim of a shooting. So that's just, very typical, where we maybe get someone we know is a violent person, but again, they turn around and get back out in the community pretty quickly. But those 2 guns were run through NIBIN. We test fired them, ran the bullets through this machine. The first individual, his gun was used in 2 different shootings in Washington where houses were actually struck by gunfire. So again, we know he's a trigger puller. That gun was used to strike houses. Fortunately, nobody was hit. The other handgun that was on the 17-year-old, that was used in 2 different shootings. Each one of those was a 30-year-old male that was shot. The first one, the victim declined to prosecute. That was at Lulu Macabre. The second one was in August, and the prosecutor's office declined prosecution on that one. But again, it just goes to show you that that machine allows us to say, not only when we can share this with the prosecutor's office, not only was this individual carrying a gun, but that is a crime gun used in shootings. And that's powerful evidence that we now have thanks to our partnership with the federal government and our NIBIN machine. And these are the guns that I'm talking about that those individuals had. Obviously, they're involved in robberies. And robberies are a big concern because that drives shootings. If you rob someone, then we have a retaliation shooting. So again, these were good individuals to get these guns off the street. Okay, so I was talking about a lot of negative things there. Now I want to talk about some positive stuff. And I'm going to turn this over to our group violence intervention coordinator, Michael Wilder. And he and his team have been doing some phenomenal work and outreach that is very special. And I want him to share that with you guys tonight so you can kind of see what's been going on. So Michael, turn it over to you.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? First I want to introduce my GVI executive board members. Dr. Charlotte Davis, Interfaith Strategies for Advocacy and Action in the Community, Isaac. Wendy Flora from Isaac. Esteban Juarez from Urban Alliance. Chief Vernon Coakley Jr., Kalamazoo Public Safety. Dr. Addis Moore, Northside Ministerial Alliance. Pastor Lindsay Bell, Northside Ministerial Alliance. Patsy Moore, Kalamazoo City Manager's Office. Wendy Fields, NAACP. Don Webster, Kalamazoo Public Safety. Andrew Berg, United States Attorney for Western District of Michigan. Jeff Getting, Kalamazoo County Prosecutor. And Lisa Johannesson, Michigan Department of Corrections. Just to acknowledge everyone. How y'all doing? So GVI is, even though we've been here for about 6 years, maybe 6 years, but really it's still in its infant stage. And so we're doing different strategies and looking at different things to try to slow down gun violence. And one of the things that I've learned is that if we really want to slow down gun violence, we have to learn how to love our shooters. We have to learn how to find our shooters, use the streets, use our outreach to find the shooters and contact the shooters sometime before the police. or when the police find them, instead of just running out and just arresting people. Let's find out what's going on. Why are they having guns? Why do they want to shoot people? Why do they want to shoot each other? The answer to that question is multifaceted. It's not one answer. It's not like a pocket of crime and we can go get everybody together and say, why are you doing this? And find out and figure it out. It doesn't work that way. It's all unrelated, this patch over here, this patch over there. And the violence is getting so young. Like I had to tell some people the other day, they said, where are the young people getting these guns? I said, that question right there lets me know that people are not in tune of what's going on. We're watching the world change before our eyes. With COVID and the past president and what's been going on in the last year, we're watching the world change before our eyes. Let me tell you something. The youth are not getting their guns from grown-ups. Grown-ups are getting their guns from youth. 30-year-old men are buying guns from 16-year-olds. AR-15s, guns with extended clips. 30-year-old men are buying guns from 15-year-olds. The guns are so saturated. The United States of America streets, not just Kalamazoo, the whole country is so saturated with guns that the youth actually getting guns from each other and selling guns to the streets. So until you know that part of it, you're going to be off beat. You're going to be off kilt until you figure out what's going on out here in these streets. So Urban Alliance, GVI is linked with Urban Alliance, and they let us use their building. And so in letting us use their building, which is a old church that's being turned into an office building, it's got so many offices in it and so many parts to it that I decided, hey, let's do something with this building. And so the first thing we did was we created a room called the War Room. And that's a room that we got a mural painted on the wall, just depicting what we go through in our communities. And we got a round table, and it's called the War Room because we use it just like in a movie when you watch a war movie. Everybody at the table and coming up with strategies to win the war. Right now, we're in a war against gun violence. So what I do is I reach out and I learn, if I have to do a custom notification on a young shooter, I stay in touch with that person. I give them my card. I say to them, I'm not going to chase you. If you take my card and you call me, if you don't call me, the next time we see each other, I'm going to say, how you doing? You're going to say, how you doing? And we'll keep it moving. But if you call me, you're going to activate me. I'm coming for you for life. I'm going to be waking you up for school. I'm going to get you a job. You're going to get fired. I'm going to get you another job. I'm already looking at your next job before I got you your first job. But you got to call me. That's the deal. So in doing that, when we do custom notifications, whereas the police know that we got a shooter in the neighborhood, they come to me, Mr. Wilder, we need to do a custom notification for this shooter. Me, the police, we go to that shooter's house, knock on the door. We talk to them. The police officer tells them, your name been involved in this, and that. And we don't want to put you in jail. And so, but we're going to put you in jail if you keep doing this or that. And then they turn it over to me. When they turn it over to me, I let them know, you know what I'm saying? Come to me, come to my building, come hang out with me. We eat, we feed them at the building, and we chop it up and we talk about things. And if they need jobs, we help them get jobs. I take them out to fill out job applications. I take them to get their ID. I take them to get their social security card, all kinds of things that you'll be surprised that young people in the streets don't have. And when I say young, I mean like 25, they may not have no ID. You know what I'm saying? I got a 30-year-old who told me he's never had an ID. I said, geez, how you 30 years old, never had an ID? So I got some young men with me who.
And Mike, hold on that. So, and I want to go back a couple things, and I skipped over this real quick. Mike, you want to explain the group violence logo? So this was designed by Mike and his team. You want to kind of explain what that is?
So Dr. Charlotte told me that I can create my own logo for GVI. And so I thought on it. It took me a couple of weeks, and I came up with this logo right here. So if you look at it, the fingers are straight. That means that's a crowd of people. That's a group of people, and they're not crinkly, they're not balled up because the people are getting along. So those fingers are people getting along. That's a group of people getting along. The bottom thumbs are locked for strength, as a community, for strength. And the dove head that you see at the bottom represents love. I'm a Christian, and the Bible says the dove represents love. So the fingers also double as wings for the dove. And so that's what the group violence intervention logo is. And that's what I use that's on my business cards that I pass out. And I don't know, I just wanted to have something that, you know, was catchy and it could catch your eye and have a meaning. So that's why I did that.
And so there's three basic partners in this. And again, like Michael said, social services, which is that offer of help, and that's Urban Alliance is our main partner. Urban Alliance might not offer all the services, but they're who we go to point them in the right direction on whatever they may need. So it's that one point of contact they have with Urban Alliance and their team there to make sure that they get pointed in the right direction. Street outreach, that's what Michael's talking about. That's kind of, he leads that street outreach team. Jordan Watts is one of our street outreach workers now. These young men are future street outreach workers. They're just coming online. So that's a great thing that we're going to talk about more. And then obviously law enforcement is the third piece of this. And the thing about law enforcement that makes this special is it's law enforcement and outreach and social service all working together, communicating with each other at the table, strategizing on ways we can intervene. This is about preventing shootings. This is about keeping, as we always say, it's about keeping people safe, alive, and free. We don't want, the whole point of this is not to arrest people. It's to reduce trauma, reduce these shootings, and identify individuals who may need a second chance. That, you know, this young man, he made a mistake. And we always say there's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's staying wrong that's the problem. And if you want to change, we're going to be right there with law enforcement to help you change. But we also know when we do these outreach interventions, some of these individuals might not be receptive to it. And then that's when law enforcement has come in, because we do have to protect the community from shooters and at least get them off the street to calm this down. But for those that want help, it is a sincere offer to help. And we, as law enforcement, are standing there willing to help them. Because like I tell Mike, and we all know, we can't arrest our way out of this problem. We can keep making arrest after arrest after arrest, and it's not going to make the streets any safer if we do it in the wrong way. In fact, it may make things worse, right? But if we do arrests in a strategic way with our community partners planned out, then that can have a big impact. And so we'll continue talking about, this is the piece that I'm most excited about, is what's going on in that GVI war room that Michael touched on. I'll turn back over to you, Mike.
So the building right there in the photo is actually turning into what I like to call a Boys and Girls Club for gangsters. I didn't intend for it to do that, but I do go after shooters. My goal is gun violence, I like to call it gun violence, gang violence, group violence, all the G's, intervention. And my goal is to go after shooters. So when police put me on someone that they suspect is a shooter, or if some of my outreach workers tell me about a suspected shooter that they got contact with, we're gonna go and talk with them and invite them to the building, invite them to the war room, tell them to come in and chop it up with us. Let's see if we can talk them into putting their guns down. And sometimes, at first, that seemed really far-fetched until I invited some people to the building, and my buddy here, Jordan Watts, invited some people to the building, and we ended up with a building full of Northsiders and Southsiders who in the past had actually shot guns at each other. And here they was in our building talking to each other. Everything was peaceful. And we was like, whoa, we might be onto something. But we still was not aware of the full potential of what's going on in the building now. We got so many people coming in every day to the point where I'm getting ready to start recording everything that goes on in the war room, because it's so powerful. It's hard to put into words if you wasn't there, if you didn't see what's been going on. So just to say that, I'm gonna turn it over to my friend Jordan Watts.
I got one thing too. So Michael said, if you can see what's going on. Well, if you know Michael, a lot of times you'll see him, he gets his phone out and he will get people, he likes to videotape people. And so sometimes they may end up on his Facebook page, just so you're aware. But this one ended up on his Facebook page. And this is just a brief interaction of the war room. And is what's, again, to reiterate what Michael's saying, what's special about this is you see people with law enforcement engaging at the table and having these honest discussions, because this is a safe place where people can share their feelings and their emotions with law enforcement. And this, I mean, this is very special, and it doesn't happen in most communities. So
When I go home, it's the
can you guys hear that? When I say, okay, good.
when I go home, it's the complete opposite of what you see when you go home. So like my front door got bullet holes in it, right? And my kids worry about, it's gonna be another shootout today, right? Is it gonna be a drive-by? Is it gonna be a shootout? The police gonna be on our street today because that's what we see on a daily basis. That's normal. So the beauty of it is, and I was telling Mitchell this upstairs, that the beauty of it is that now we're making room for people like us to come and sit at the table with people like y'all, so that we can come into mutual agreement and say, how can we target the issue before it becomes a problem?
Well, this is what's beautiful about this. So you guys are tired of this and living this way and dealing with this. We're tired of it too.
Just really, really great conversations that take place in that room, and you can break bread. You can see they always have food. They always have pizza, wings, French fries. I mean, they always got food. I think that helps get them in. But those conversations around that table are very powerful. And so I'll let these guys touch on their experience with that now.
How y'all doing? I'm Jordan Watts. The thing that's so unique about GVI, so let me give you a little bit of my background. I did probably about, I think, close to 9 years incarceration in MDOC. And I was also associated with gangs. When I was younger, I did to be truthful, I did a lot of shootings, and I was also a victim of a shooting. When I met Michael Wilder, when I first met him, and I heard about the GVI initiative and what they was doing, I couldn't stand Mike. I just didn't agree with the approach. And then when I met the man himself, I realized that he was so genuine. And he lived GVI. It's true from what he's saying. He believes in what he's saying. And being in prison and being around all those different mentalities, I get a good read on people. So I got a lot of trauma, so I'm very judgmental. I'm very nervous. So when I be around people, I always question, is they genuine? So when I met Mr. Wilder, and he was telling me everything he was doing, and I felt the genuineness. And then he brought me around guys like Dave Boyson and Chief Copley. And when I sat around them, and they told me that they're my family, that was so powerful. And what GVI is doing in the community is we're not just asking people to put guns down. So it's not like, okay, well, put the gun down, stop the shooting, and then go by yourself, go about your day. Because how are we gonna protect our family? How are we gonna put food on the table? How are we gonna feel safe? People that's been through a lot of trauma, how can we live knowing that we put this firearm down, but we still got this trauma? So they got the social support or Urban Alliance, and it's like, okay, well, we ask you to put the guns down, but we also bring you in and we loving on you. We also bring you to this table and we support you. And not only we support you, it's positive support. There's never a time we can't call any member of GVI and be like, hey, I want to come to the building and sit down and talk. There's never a time I can call them at 1 a.m, like, I'm stressing, I'm going through this. Mike, I'm feeling that itch. I want to do something. And they like, come in, that positive support, come in. We love you and we want you to do better. What do your family need? And that's so positive. It's so uplifting. So the initiative that GVI is doing and the partnerships with Dave Boyson, when we bring people to the table, they told us that we're family. It's not, the police over here and we against the police. It's not we the community versus law enforcement. When they come to the table, they putting their badge to the side. This is a community, we family. And that leaves a mark on people. That leaves an impression. And then you got people at the table that have so much influence in the community. Like for an example, myself, now I want to be one of the persons that saved, a guy like DQ. I want to be one of the persons that saved somebody that's young, that went through a lot of trauma, and that their life is heading down the wrong way. So GVI is just so powerful in what they do in the community. And I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to have been given this chance to be able to make my family proud, to be able to work with people that really care about us and that see the potential we have, because they're not taking that potential from us. They letting it blossom and they turn it for positive.
Thanks, man. That's dope. Go ahead, Miss, give us some.
Okay, just like kind of like just what Jordan said, I'm just give you a little bit of my background. I'm not a felon, but I have been in trial twice. And basically, like, I was just heading on the path of destruction. Like, I was out here, I was, kind of like Jordan said, I was doing a lot of stuff I probably shouldn't have been doing. But once I met Mike, I mean, not saying like I just met him, because I've been knowing him since I was 15 years old. That's when I first met him. But as far as like when I reconnected with him, when I got older, like, you know what I'm saying, I was still out here on the same dumb, really, on like the same dumb stuff, you know, just being young and dumb around the wrong crowd, around the wrong people. And when I told Mike, you know, like, yeah, Mike, I like what you're doing, bro, you know what I'm saying, like, you're doing your thing for GBI, nah. He was like, yeah, bro, like, come in with me, like, you know, like, let me change your life, like, you know, like, since I met you, bro, I've been wanting you to change everything you've been doing, but like, since you just came to me, I'm never letting you go, like, bro, I'm gonna call you every single day, I'm gonna see you, you know, it's like, how you doing, I'm gonna make sure you, so like, since he gave me that promise, like, at least, I'm not gonna say every day, but at least 3 times a week. If I don't call him, he calls me. Anything I've needed, like, you know, he's been there for like, just like mental support, just like financially, you know, like if I needed him, like, you know, I just got a job yesterday. And when I called him this morning and I was like, yeah, Mike, I'm supposed to start work tomorrow, but I need some steel toe boots, man, you know, like, and I got no steel toe boots. He's like, yeah, bro, I'll take you to Walmart right now. We go get some steel toe boots. And I was like, yeah, bro. And then, you know, I got no washing, you know, I'm saying, detergent at home, you know, like I need some washing detergent. He's like, yeah, bro, I got anything you need, bro, you know, so I got you. And that's just because he sees me trying. And it's like, as long as I'm doing positive stuff, and like as long as I'm trying to just like live my life right and, you know, just like leaning towards the right direction, anything I need or anything that I want, like he's there for me 100%. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like I've even brought, you know, like people into the building that was on the wrong path and I was doing the wrong stuff, and like we all come, we sit, we talk, like, you know, and then it's like the people that Mike can't reach, the people that, like, you know, it's like Chief Boyden can't reach. With us being a lot younger than they are, we're like the boots on the ground. So it's like people that they can't get to. It's like people that they may not have any way of contact. They try to do customs and went to their houses, can't find them. They got people like us to the point they call us like, yeah, hey man, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, yeah, bro, I know him. He's like, yeah, bro, I've been trying to, you know, so I have a conversation with him. Could you get him to come in for me? And then like people like me and people like Jordan and just like a few other people we got, and we try to, you know, like hit the streets, we go find them, we bring them in, we try to like change their lives, basically, just like, you know, just like DQ here, like, you know, like since he linked up with Mike, it's been all positivity. Like he ain't been on the same stuff that he like used. It's been all straight, pure positivity, and that just goes to show right there that, you know, GVI is doing something, like it's working in some type of way. Because everybody's sitting here, like we all got different story to tell, like, but we've all been through a lot. But just us being at this table right here, like that just goes to show a lot. Because I'm at the Crosstown Police Station. I could have never imagined myself sitting here, being in the meeting, talking to y'all, sitting here, you know, just like next to Chief Boysen, you know, just like Chief Green. I'm not sure where he is. He's somewhere around. Like I could have never seen myself doing something like this. So it's like, and like this is all thanks to GBI and thanks to Mike, and I appreciate you for, you know, like giving us the opportunity to come to the table and come and like voice our opinion, let them know like this was real, you know, like. But thanks for listening.
Tell them something, Q.
Basically what they was just saying, GBI is like a positive group that I came around. I've been around for like 2 months now, so yeah. So since I've been with Mike, I met Mike 2 months ago.
Tell me how old you are.
I'm 16. And me and my cousin, yeah, I've been saying, we've been with Mike for 2 months now. And since we've been going with him, we've been motivated, going around motivating people, staying out of trouble, staying out the way. Been having talks with Mike about like getting jobs, doing better on school stuff, all that stuff. And every day we come to the building. Some days we come to the building like if Mike busy. We'll stay at home sometimes, but you know, if he's not busy, he'll come get us, and we'll go to the building. It's like a gym, weight room, all of that. It just like it helps us stay out the way. It helps us stay out the way, and it keeps us like moving throughout the day. Like it keeps us like doing positive things throughout the day instead of just being out on the streets and doing all the bad stuff. So yeah, coming to the building is something I appreciate. I very appreciate very much. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, DQ and Jordan. Little man, so powerful.
Let me say something. When y'all heard all of that, understand something. I feel like if we really want to get to the source of gun violence, there's a difference in policing that's needed, and we have to learn how to reach our shooters, our potential shooters. Their names be ringing. You know, it ain't about waiting till they shoot somebody and then catch them and put them in jail. That's kind of like defeating the purpose, really. But if we can get in front of them, learn who the shooters are, and I use other shooters to communicate with shooters. Most of the people, if I have to do a custom notification on them, their name got to do with shooting, I give them my card. If they call me, then they're gonna enjoy themselves so much that they're gonna tell other shooters. And hey man, you know what I'm saying? Listen, and then other shooters listen to each other. I'm not a shooter, so they ain't gonna listen to me. Just like Jordan said, he didn't even like me. He like, this dude don't know what he's talking about. He ain't out here with us. But I'm gonna go find a shooter who Jordan know. And have Jordan see him, he'll listen to him. And other people listen to Jordan. Now Jordan with me, I got a very powerful weapon against the streets of Kalamazoo in this young man, Jordan. And so the streets still listen to him because he's still young. So if Jordan say, if he tell 10 guys with guns, hey man, put y'all guns down, man, we finna go over here with Mike. 4 of them gonna go.
Well, that's just what he's hitting on when he's talking about different style policing. That's what this is. This is different and this is unique. And we are willing to give people a chance. And we use arrest as a last resort, right? That's a last resort, but sometimes we have to do that. But we are also willing to get people to the table and give people a second chance that need a second chance. And a lot of these young men in this room have gotten a second chance through the GBI, and that's powerful. But one thing that we'll never be able to put a number on is how many shooting and violent incidents have been prevented by this outreach team. And they're being modest. But so Jordan, for instance, we had a 15-year-old that pulled a gun on somebody, threatened to shoot them, fought with one of our officers. Actually, one of our female officers was bit in the head by this young man at 15 years old. I got it approved for Michael and Jordan to go to the juvenile home and interact with this young man to try to get him on the right track. And Jordan was able to connect with him in ways that Michael or I never could. And so that's just one example. Another example, there's 2 people that were in a long-term beef, shoot shots back and forth. Jordan was able to get them to come to the war room, to the GBI building and meet and hash it out. And next thing you know, they're laughing and had it completely squashed over a misunderstanding. But those are the things, that's how we solve gun violence, is these interventions and having people that can talk to people. And for those, and again, that's why I appreciate this opportunity, because GBI is not about arresting folks. These people are working with law enforcement not to try to get people in jail. They're working with law enforcement to try to keep people out of jail, to keep them alive and free. That's what we're working on. So every one of these shootings that they prevent, it's just untold benefits to our community, because when we have a shooting and we have a homicide, again, we have a young man that's never coming home. His family is completely traumatized, and then the other person that's involved is life in prison, and their family is traumatized. So if we can prevent one of those shootings, it makes all this worthwhile. So thank you very much, guys. I just got a really quick thing I want to touch on, and this will be really brief. Then we can open up to questions. Is our bridging opportunities? I want to keep this on the radar because we know that. Talk about the gun violence. How do we stop the pipeline of gun violence? You hear about the school to prison pipeline, all this stuff. Well, it's how we do that is we identify those 14, 15, and 16-year-olds that we know if we don't do something, where they're headed. And we do interventions on them through bridging opportunity. Now, we like to do it younger, but one of the things about bridging is we're partnered with YOU. So I'll talk about that in a second. And so they get paid employment, and you can't get paid if you're under 15. So that's why we have 15. But we started bridging in 2017 because of a huge increase in youth involved crime in 2016. And you can see under bridging, every year it had gone down, slight uptick in 19. 2020, we could not do bridging because of COVID. We tried to do it in a bridging light form, I call it, because of the virtual stuff, and it just didn't work. But we know it has a huge impact on some of these youth that are participating in this. And I'll just talk about the partners. It's really quick. It's a partnership between probate court. Judge Bell is the advocate and leader in this for the probate court, juvenile probation, prevention works, community healing center, Star Commonwealth, public safety, Boys and Girls Club, Greater Kalamazoo, and YOU. They're all partners. It's working together with the families and the youth to try to put them on the right path and give them other opportunities. So, and there's a lot to this program, but these youth, as soon as school gets out, we select usually anywhere between 20 to 25 youth. This year's got to be a little less with COVID restriction, where we've got 12 on the list. And they get paid employment during the day, they get programming. We brought in a community healing center to deal with substance abuse issues. We brought in Star Commonwealth to help educate parents on how to deal with some of these difficult youth. And we work with probation in the courts and public safety to build relationships and trust with the family. So we basically, a lot of these kids were slipping through the cracks. We'd arrest a kid and they would maybe we'd write the case, they'd take them to juvenile home, they would get out, juvenile home would do their thing, probate court would do their thing, and we weren't talking to each other. Bridging brings us all to the table to try to help turn these kids around. And every year we take them to trip. This is the one we did last year when we could with COVID stuff, but we did Craig's Cruisers. This is the staff. We didn't want to put the kids' pictures out there, but this is some of our partners in Bridging, including some of our CPOs that were there in plain clothes, riding go-karts with the kids, and just a really great experience. This year, we identified again 12 youth, and this is what's important about it. If you look at these, the 12 youth, I took their names out, obviously, but the top 12 that are going to be getting in June, they have a combined total of 367 police contacts. That's cases and arrests. So that's a lot of police contacts with a very young population that we know we need to do something different. And that's what Bridging tries to do, is put them on a right path and break down those relationships, that the barriers that we have between the families and public safety and the courts and community organizations. We have some on reserve, and then we have some girls, but again, we're kind of limited to programming space due to COVID, but we have 12 youth signed up for that this year. So we're really excited to get that started again. So that is all I have. And we will turn it over to you, and if you have any questions for us.
First of all, I just want to say thank you very, very much to take time to be with us here tonight and provide us with this presentation. At this point, are there any questions for the team from Vice Mayor or commissioners? Commissioner Cunningham, please.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Does GVI have programming around just training regular individuals from the community to kind of serve in this capacity to assist with, you know, some of the things that you guys are trying to accomplish? Is there a formal capacity of that?
Not really, but I got this thing where I feel like what we do can't be taught. This has to come from the heart. You have to have it can't be about a career. It can't be about money. You have to want from your heart to stop young shooters from throwing their lives away, not only killing someone. You know, I'm a Christian. When someone dies, the good book tells me God came and got them. You know what I'm saying? But the person who kills is alive, and they're going to suffer. They don't know what natural life without parole feels like. But I do. I've been in prison with 18-year-olds that got natural life without parole. And I've walked the yard with 70-year-old men that have been in prison since 1980 that got life without parole. So it has to come from the heart. Now, if it's in your heart and you want to get into that, you know, no, we don't have a specific program to train them. But I just tell them to come to the building and hang out with us, you know, and then I'll get a chance to gauge, because I'm very protective of my GVI team. I'm very protective of my GVI brand, and I'm very protective of people that have a different ideology about how to do it, and they got a different you know, reason why they want to do this work. I have to make sure that. So what I would want you to do is come hang out at the building with me for a couple of weeks, and I get a chance to gauge you, and then I'll say, hey, this guy seems like he's all right. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't script. We don't. I have a degree. I did graduate from college, but it's not a mandatory thing to have. You know. So yeah, but I would like to get with you to see if we could implement some form of, you know, training.
And Commissioner Cunningham, just for internally, so all of our new officers, they get hired. So as soon as they get out of the police academy and they come to what we call our advanced academy, where they start our training in-house, we speak to them about GVI and we present GVI and the strategy to them. And actually Mike and some of his team members come talk to them about GVI, because GVI can't just be a top-down thing in public safety. All of our line officers have to believe in it and be part of it. And we start that in their first day in the door, and then we train them as they continue in their career at public safety. And so again, it's We have trained, we've partnered with the National Network for Safe Communities. They provide training for us for some community members that we've done in the past, and we can continue with those again. But it's really important that our staff buys into this. And because we've been doing this really since 2016, our staff now understands the GBI and the role that they play in the strategy.
Jordan, what to say, essence.
Also, when it comes to training, so there's like two sides of GBI. You got GBI initiative, and then you got the social support system of GBI, which is Urban Alliance. So with GBI, that got to be in your heart. Do you want to stop people from committing these crimes? Do you want to stop people from going to prison? And then the social support of Urban Alliance, they train you, because I'm going through the training right now. Like, I need to know all the resources we can offer people. I need to know who I can connect people to. If I can't connect people, I also need to go out in the community and make my own connections. So if Urban Alliance doesn't offer something, I can be able to say, well, Goodwill offers the Life Guide program, or Mount Zion Baptist Church also offers this, or this, drop-in center offers this. I got to make them connections, and they training me, and I'm being with people that's been doing it for years. Like, I'm being with them on a daily basis so they can show me the ropes. So if ever an issue was to rise, I can show them. I know what to do.
Thank you, Mike. I think you hit the nail on the head with, there's a certain culture that you're looking for, a certain type of individual. And that's one of the things that I've been continuously having conversations with our management and even KDPS leadership, in that, the individuals that we bring on as officers, I think it's imperative that they have some of the inherited culture understanding. So not just, training around it, but did they live it? Were they around it? Did they have those experiences of trauma? And so the reason why I inquired on that is because I have continuously over the years had individuals who are fresh out, typically, who are looking for this type of opportunity. And so just hearing, I don't know, whatever today kind of sparked, I think it might be a good opportunity to find a way to get these individuals engaged in that capacity, because they are individuals who will be able to relate, and individuals who understand the trauma and the issues that our community is dealing with on that level.
Commissioner Cunningham, a while ago, I had told you I didn't know what me and you would ever be able to do because our jobs are so different. But I did know that there was something me and you would do one day. Remember I told you that? Now, what you just said is very important. So I would just say to you, at any given time, if you got a free moment, bring a couple of those guys up to the building. Let's have a lunch and chop it up.
Sounds like a deal.
Other questions from Vice Mayor, commissioners for the team here? Yeah, Vice Mayor Griffin.
Thank you. Thank you all for this presentation. How you doing, Michael Wilder? It's good to hear from the young folks and Assistant Chief Boyson. So I really appreciate this presentation. I have one question and then a comment. So my question is, we're hearing a lot about the juveniles and a lot about young people, but I'm wondering, with your interventions, are there any women involved? Because we're talking about a mother or a sister or a girlfriend, even with the ones that are over 18. I'm wondering where the women are involved with your interventions, just because of the roles that we play in the lives of these young men and these adult men as well.
Yes, I'm in the process of putting a program together for women who've lost children to gun violence. And Melody Coleman is going to be my front lady for that. And also we got Wendy Fields, who's when we do custom notifications, she likes to come along with us because she brings this motherly love to the room. Like, it might not seem very important, but when she's there, she'll offer prayer. Some people are not Christian, so they may not want prayer. But if she offers prayer, her prayer doesn't come like it'll come from a pastor. It comes like I said, she brings like a motherly love to the room. So with Melody Coleman, with the pain that she experienced from losing her grandson, as she laid there with her hand actually holding the bullet hole as the blood was coming through his hole and coming through her fingers. And so I feel like people who lose children to gun violence grieve a little differently than people who may lose a child to cancer or a car accident or anything like that. So when they have that gun violence link, I think those people should be together in our community. Like we should throw events where we bring in every parent who has lost a child to gun violence, every woman or every man. And also we have a program where we starting where children who lose parents to gun violence. If a 12-year-old boy loses his loses his dad to gun violence, and he don't get the proper training, he might grow up appearing normal. Everybody knows his daddy died. They went to the funeral. He's going through life, but inside he's simmering, and he might kill somebody. Why? Because his daddy died. Somebody killed his daddy, or he might get killed. Why? Because his daddy got killed. So if those things are not loved on properly, so I'm inviting women to the table to help me, because it spider webs into so many different things. Traumatized women. What about little girls who lose their father to gun violence? You know what I'm saying? Those things need to be specifically targeted. So yes, I do have women on the radar.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And my comment is more for us as a commission and for the city staff. And I like some of the comments that were lifted up by the presentation, but I want to take it a step further than that and say, let's try to get to these young children before they're shooters, before they're labeled as offenders. There's a whole time before they even enter into the system. And I'm saying that to say a lot of the faces I just looked at were Black. When we talk about, and there's a lot of intersections, and trust me, personal responsibility and personal decision-making is absolutely paramount. And I lift that up. On the side of that are the environments that we're creating have been allowed to exist and continue, and that we're perpetuating. And so when we have the highest population of homeless folks being Black women, and we have interventions that don't include these children, and we had last year where we had adults that were primarily shooters, and here we go this year, now we have kids. If we keep going on in these circles and cycles, and we only look to GBI for the solutions and don't look at how these outcomes are impacted by the decisions that we make in every area, then next year we'll come back and it'll be 12-year-olds and 11-year-olds. So I want to lift that up to say all these facts and figures, that story was telling itself last year, and it's going to keep telling itself unless we make different decisions. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Other questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Pradel?
Hey, I just want to echo everyone so far, my colleagues, and just thank you for your time and sharing your personal story and just the powerful work that you're a part of. Just know that your community loves you, and your work is so important. So thank you. We talked a little bit about the three areas that you're really trying hard to accomplish with GBI. One was reducing trauma. The second one was reducing shootings. The third was giving people a second chance. And on the trauma end, just listening to you, just the power of being able to sit around a table and break bread with people and have a conversation and talk about, feelings and what's on your mind is definitely a key to that. I was just curious, on that trauma end, do you have the support and involvement of mental health community or mental health professionals and whatnot to be there as a support structure? I just was curious if you could share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we have a connection with the Brown, what's it called? The Black and Brown Collective for African American counselors and trauma counselors, so they can relate and see someone that they recognize in times of that trauma. And Chris Pompey is one of our lead counselors at Urban Alliance, African American guy, and he's really powerful, and he directs a lot of that. So yes, we do have that.
And just to Chris Pompey wasn't here with us tonight, but he is a really amazing person and does a lot of great work, bringing people to the GBI table and just making them feel loved and supported. And he's just another great addition to the team.
Well,
Commissioner Urban?
yeah, I have a comment. As I'm listening to you, it seems to me what really is standing out is what you're searching for in all your dealings is authenticity. Whatever interaction you have with people, if it's not authentic, it's not going to work. So anybody who, like me, who wants to help, I have to earn your trust, for example, and that's going to be a steep climb. That's going to be a real steep climb. Okay, well, and I, of course, I'm kind of a trusting guy, so I'll trust you, but I have to understand that many of you have good reasons not to trust me. So the fact that you're insisting on that very high bar of, are you sincere? Do you really mean what you are saying? Are you prepared to follow through on what you said? Now, that's something we in our country are very short of right now, and so it's powerful just to hear how clear you are on the importance of being genuine. So thank you very much for conveying that to us.
Commissioner Hess?
Again, echoes. Michael and team, thank you so much. Thank you, Chief Boyson, Assistant Chief Boyson, for bringing this to the Committee of the Whole. I think when we established the Committee of the Whole, we weren't really aware of how powerful these can be. This is amazing knowledge for me. So I, like Vice Mayor, have a comment, then a question. So my comment is that your program is as valuable an educational tool and an educational vehicle as any K through 12 school or any college or university in this town. This is really valuable. So thank you for the work you're doing in bringing the truth forward from our young people. And it's really important work. That said, I'm just wondering about the funding for the GVI, and it probably comes from multiple sources, but are we adequately funding your efforts? And how can you let us know as a commission, as city staff? I'm sure you are through the chief, but what is it that we can do to help your efforts?
Geez, I thought you would never ask. No, thanks, commissioners, for that comment. But yeah, to be honest, we've been doing GBI on a kind of a shoestring budget with the outreach piece. We kind of pieced together grants. Our Irving S. Gilmore Foundation has been very supportive of GBI since the beginning. So they help fund our social service piece of that. So we have some money coming from Irving S. Gilmore Foundation. We have a federal grant through Project Safe Neighborhoods that helps to fund Michael's position as the program coordinator. We have some funds from the City of Kalamazoo General Fund to help support this. Isaac, Interfaith Strategies for Advocacy and Action. The community has some grant resources that they've used to fund this. So we've kind of pieced together different grants and different funding streams to try to make this work. So one of the things like you heard talking about, I needed boots for work, right? So if we had funds available for buying boots for somebody, so we have what we call the big small stuff. It might be small to you or I, but to these individuals, to him, work boots was a big thing, right? You need work boots. Okay, that was a big thing. And GBI, to be credible, has to be able to immediately help when people need it. So we're not just talking about we want to help. We got funds in place. We will help you. We've helped. I think we put help people that didn't have hot water get hot water in their homes. If they got little kids in the house with no hot water, that's not good. They didn't have any resources. So little things like that can derail someone. So those funds that we have in place to provide those things, it is very important.
Because if you think about it, not saying just on my behalf, but just like, just in general, say somebody had to start work tomorrow, they had no way to get work boots. 9 times out of 10, not saying everybody, but a lot of people would resort to trying to go to the store and go steal them. And then like, in doing that, you get what? You get a shoplifting charge, so then you're in the system, so it's just like like, that's just another, you know what I'm saying? Just like, kind of like the way that GBI just works, like, you know, like, I can't even keep going with it, but like, but it works.
Yeah. So I think it was about a year ago. I haven't had hot water, I want to say, for about like 6 months. And I was like half in, half out. Like I had my foot in the street still, and I was leaning on doing right with my life. And I really was having the thoughts of supporting my family, so I needed to go do something to gain the money and obtain the money to be able to support my family. And a lot of times my thinking is, it's a contradiction. I think I'm doing it the right way, but I'm actually doing it the wrong way. I'm taking myself further away from my goals. So I ended up reaching out to Chief Coakley. And man, I swear it was less than 24 hours. There was a man coming to my house and they was putting a water heater in my house. It was such a blessing.
That's what GBI is all about. And can I say one more? Yeah, just one more. And kind of like, he just hit on something, so I guess I hit on mine. Like a couple months ago, like I was about to move, and me and my girlfriend, like we were supposed to be going half on moving, but basically when it came time to move, we didn't have all the funds that we needed to move, and like I was stressed about it. I've been calling Mike for a couple days, like, man, bro, I need to figure out how to get this money. Like I ain't got no ID, so I can't get a job right now. And he was like, how much you need, bro? And I was like, I mean, honestly, like, I need $900, bro. Like, you know, like, I need $900. He was like, he had just thought on it for a minute. He was like, just because I love you so much and I don't want to see you trick yourself just like out of your position that you in, or see you go try to do anything stupid just because you're so desperate because you want to take care of your family and you want to move them, I'm going to give you the $900. And I was like, bro, like, you sure? Like, I ain't, because I've never had anybody do anything like that for me. Like, I'm 23 years old. I've never even got anything like that from like anybody in my family, in my circle, my friends. So it was like, that was so powerful for me. And like, that was another reason that I just like, I'm be honest, like, I'm not saying I'm out of the street full time, like 100%, but like, as far as to like what I was doing, I changed my life like completely. Like it's been a complete turnaround, and that's just because the support that I never had, I'm getting that now. Like I do have a mom, I got a dad, but it's like they got their own stuff going on in their life, so they can't deal with my problems all the time. But it's like I've never called Mike with a problem that he hasn't been able to help me with. And not saying that like that I just call when I'm in trouble, because I talk to him all the time. Like we talk, you know, it's like we hang out. I done bought him lunch, like, you know, but it's just like anything I go through, like I always got somebody to call, whether I can't call him, like, you know, I can call Jordan. If I can't call Jordan, I can call one of the other mentors from like the GBI program, and somebody's always there, like, oh, yeah, he's a mentor from the GBI program, right? But no, like, so it's like somebody's always there, like, even if you want to talk, you just need somebody to talk to, like you just going through it, you want to do something crazy, like somebody's always there, and they're not going to let you derail off your path. It's just like, yeah, I guess that's basically what I'm saying.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Thank you. I thought this was only opportunity to ask questions. I did have quite a few comments that I wanted to make. Some of it is preaching to the choir, and then other pieces I think is to just mainly my colleagues and some opportunities that we can take advantage of. I will honestly say I've been able to serve this community and on and off in this capacity since 2015, and my biggest failure has been not figuring out how we stem this violence in our community. And if anybody knows me, I try to bear every burden, so I put it on my shoulders and my shoulders alone. But I say that to say, you know, it's you know, I appreciate the term love. The previous mayor used to knock me 24/7 just because I was the love commissioner. but it's got to be the baseline. It's got to be the cornerstone. And I sent our chief a text the other day because I got online and first thing I saw was a prayer and being thankful and appreciative. And so when I hear GVI talking about love, when I hear our chief talking about love, and I hear my colleagues talking about love, I know our head is in the right place and our heart has to follow. Or our heart is in the right place and our head has to follow. And so I'm appreciative of that. But it's rough. You're talking about 15-year-olds. I sat down with a couple kids in the last couple months, individuals, I know their parents or I coached them, and 15, 16, 17. And, you know, I try to give them, my conversation is really straightforward. And this is really for the community. It's really straightforward. I understand we go through things, but you can't allow individuals to own real estate in your head. You can't allow people to get in your feelings that much where you feel like you have to go out and retaliate in that manner. I understand our community. I understand the codes. You know, I caught a felony 12 years ago for something I did 20 years ago. And trust me, there's a lot of frustration on the other side of the table when it comes to, you know, when I got prosecuted. But I say that to say, you know, there are some things that we can do, and there are some things that the state and the federal level can do. You know, when we look at prosecuting, arrests, things of that nature, we've continued to prosecute more and more. It's well documented on how much more African Americans in our communities have been prosecuted as opposed to any other counterpart, practically in a lot of instances combined. And that hasn't been the answer. It's that simple. It has not been the answer. So if you're looking for prosecution, more arrests to be the answer, it's not going to get the job done. I guarantee you that. And so I say that to say on the local level, as the city of Kalamazoo, we've been looking at opportunities on how we can drop misdemeanors down to civil infractions. Understanding that what I just stated is simple. We've been prosecuting. We do it a little bit, let's double that, let's triple that, let's quadruple that. And that's been since the 80s. And it has not worked. In a lot of instances, it's made things 10 times worse. So one, we have to evaluate who we're arresting, why we're arresting, who we're prosecuting, why we're prosecuting. And then we even got to look at our judges and say, hey, you know, what's going on here where individuals in this lane is getting this and individuals in that lane is getting something else. And trust me, the worst thing I've heard as an elected official is that in the juvenile system, African-American youth are getting prosecuted and arrested more than any other counterpart. So they get longer sentences. They show up before a judge just because of the color of their skin. You're talking about babies. So I have a frustration there. So that's one thing. The other piece is it's unnecessary to have this many guns in our community. We look at the gun violence and we see no changes on the federal level as to what we can do to stem it. Nothing. I hear, oh, it's because of mental health. Okay, then put dollars in mental health, put resources in mental health, invest in mental health. No, we're not going to do that. Then I hear, oh, well, you know, we just need to find ways so individuals can't get access to the guns. Okay, put some on the books, write some legislation, pass the legislation. We've been talking about this since the Obama administration. A lot of the things that we're dealing with has just been unacceptable. And just like I've been reiterating it over and over again to my colleagues, to leadership, to Chief Coakley, the standard has to change. Once we change the standard, this is no longer acceptable. Then you put in the accountability to ensure that this is no longer acceptable. So to my colleagues, again, two things we can easily hit on is we got to make sure we're in the ears of our attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, our judges, our state, federal representatives to say, hey, you know, these are the type of things that need to change. Let's start having these conversations about gun violence. I mean, it's unfortunate that George Floyd opened the door up for us to have these conversations, but it's our opportunity now to take advantage of these conversations. It baffles me how it's almost taboo. You can't even bring up the subject. You can't even talk about it in a lot of rooms and places and spaces, but now we can. And that's a culture that I appreciate that we can have, but we have to continue to apply the pressure. We have to hold each other and others accountable. And, you know, once again, like the community at large, I love you. You know, we're going to find a way to wrap our arms around you. You know, we need you to be at the table to help us think this through. We can't do it without you. And in a lot of instances, you may need us to. So, you know, don't be afraid to make that phone call. I know Mike Wilder, he don't even need to know you. You can come out of the clear blue sky and I guarantee he gonna show some way, shape or form. He gonna find a way to love on you. And I give that same open door to anybody who is out there struggling. I got in trouble and yes, it was the same thing. I know, how am I gonna put, you know, a roof over my parents' heads? And as delusional as it may have been, I still made it up in my mind that I had to do it. And this is what I had to do to get there. So I understand. I think we all have these trials and tribulations. Everybody's story is different. I'm not trying to be anecdotal about it with my personal story, but you know, the data reflects the real realities of what we're dealing with. And I mean, it's unacceptable, and it's a standard that we have to change. And people, we as electeds, we allow this. Just like with KDPS and everybody's frustration with them, mine included, we allowed this. And it's just not just this commission, it's the previous and the previous and the previous. We allow a lot of these things to happen. And we got to change the standard. In order to change that standard, we got to put some accountability in place. I'm sorry, Michael, it sounds like you had something to say, but thank you, Mayor,
Thank you
for
very
allowing me
much.
to voice my statement.
Commissioner Cunningham, thank you very much. I totally stand with you and agree in all of that. Also, I just want to say when it's like changing the narrative, okay, so we talk about the ratio of Blacks going to prison more than whites in other cultures, getting more time than whites in other cultures. But there's a statistic that I want people to pay attention to. I want to know how many Black men in America have never been to prison. And I think that statistic should be always included, because how did the Black men of America that have never been to prison do that? I know people that's from the Ivy Wells in Chicago, where I'm from, the dirty end, gang banging and murder, and they are teachers and engineers. There's people from the north side of Kalamazoo, where gun violence is prevalent, who are graduates from Western University. You understand? There are, I believe the ratio of Blacks who have never been to prison outweighs the number of Blacks that have been to prison. I'm not sure of that, but I'm willing to bet on it. And so that's what I try to promote, teaching my people how to never go to prison. I don't care what the statistics are about Blacks versus whites and all of that. I'm sick of that. I'm done with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna teach mine how to stay free by any means. And even if that means outthinking this broken system. Because the system ain't gonna get fixed no time soon. I don't care how much you pick it or write it. It's not gonna get fixed. It's gonna get fixed, but is it gonna get fixed in our lifetime? I'm not so sure. So I'm not gonna wait for that. Just like COVID. I'm not gonna sit around this year like we did last year and let everybody die because of COVID. We're gonna be pro-COVID. You know what I'm saying? Not, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna get in front of it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we gotta teach our people how to outthink this broken system if we want to keep people free and alive. So thank y'all.
Wow.
Thank you, Michael. Any other questions for the team here this evening? Okay, I don't think I'm missing anybody here. So I just wanted to say, just to close this out, thank you very, very much for taking this time with us tonight. Thank you, Chief Coakley, for leading this effort and for being the kind of person that can be here, but surround yourself with great people so that they are part of the team and you can lift that up. So I thank you so much for that leadership, Chief Coakley. Thank you, Assistant Chief Boyson. I really appreciate that. And to Michael Wilder, I appreciate you, appreciate your work, and thank you for bringing your team very, very powerful testimony for all of us. This is a serious, serious topic. It is a topic that, you know, is present and concerning in our city, even as we sit and talk about it here. So I'm hoping, Chief Coakley, that, you know, we talked about funding, that we're going to be looking for how we make sure that we are adequately funding this particular effort as we build towards our 2022 budget. I'm sure you're already thinking about that, but I know that this commission is going to be supportive of what we need to do. And I also want to recognize what the Vice Mayor said in terms of this is a very specific targeted effort, but the lens for how we change people's lives and provide the opportunity for hope is a lens that we need to deploy all the way across the work we do and what we fund. So I appreciate that very much, Vice Mayor. I really appreciate the language, alive and free. You know, this is heart work, and it's the work that we have to be doing together. So thanks for taking this time to put this together for us. And I'm sure we're going to keep doing this together and be supportive. So thanks for all tonight. Hey, just as an aside, we have a business meeting that's starting at 7. So anyone who wants to jump on for that, you know, that's at 7 tonight. We do have a proclamation. I'm not sure if I've heard from anybody, but let me know if you are the one who would like to read that proclamation tonight at our 7 o'clock meeting. That's about public services. Manager Ritzman, anything else for us this evening?
Just one thing. DCM Laura Lamb's on the line here, and I just wanted to see if she wanted to give any type of update on the initiatives that were funded out of the City Commission's $100,000 pot last year. So, Laura?
Certainly.
Hi, DCM Lamb.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Deputy City Manager Laura Lamb. Did include some information high level to you all in Friday email, and I can give certainly a brief report out at the very end here, and then I would be happy to go into more detail or answer questions if you've got them. So just as a reminder, certainly it's been loud and clear from the Commission how much that gun violence reduction is a priority for the 2021 budget. The City Commission both allocated its 2020 dollars and looking to add its 2021 dollars City Commission initiative funds to support this effort. We landed on 4 pilot programs just to get initially started, with recognizing that we need to keep our eyes and ears open to how we can support these efforts. And certainly tonight you heard a lot more that we can do to move this forward. So just in order, one of the key elements was this notion of community mobilization and cohesion. And this is really emphasizing the work at the block club level to build connections amongst neighbors, to build connections with city staff and public safety, to really feel like they can mobilize and take care of one another and look out for the block. So with leading a community investment manager, Antonio Mitchell, he has worked with several block clubs to facilitate 4 meetings. He's mostly had to do virtual. He was able to hold an in-person live meeting in Lacrone Park. He's been doing work on William Street, North Street, Cobb Street, and Elizabeth. Still working to try to mobilize individuals on the the block club for Burdick. Right now, there's been a lot of emphasis on just getting people connected, on putting together outreach materials as we get into better weather and hopefully opportunities to potentially be together outdoors safely, anticipating a lot more coming together. There's been discussions about expanding partnerships with building blocks, expanding partnerships with action in the neighborhood, and discussions around the ways in which a security system like the Ring camera might be a useful tool. That was another initiative we wanted to look into, is would there be receptivity for residents to look at using Ring camera systems to be able to have access to footage if there was an incident that happened that might allow us valuable real-time information to be able to quickly follow up on an incident that's occurred. As of right now on the Ring camera system, we're looking at what type of arrangement we might need between residents and city to offer up the systems. We've said front and center, we want block clubs to really be the mechanism where we can vet these ideas. And the thought is, if it seems like we can come up with an arrangement that works, we'd look to begin to deploy the Ring camera systems in our block clubs to start, and just to see where we go from there. In terms of looking at mental health services and how to augment supports for individuals, survivors, or victims of gun violence, there's been a lot of discussion between public safety and integrated services Kalamazoo to understand kind of the existing systems that are in place and to recognize how often public safety is interacting with individuals that have experienced crime or been involved in a traumatic event that need supports. The current first step is to look at in real time how we might be able to have public safety officers connect community members experiencing trauma with integrated services Kalamazoo staff. We've got our both of our chief information officers from Integrated Services Kalamazoo and the city talking about the possibility of doing some virtual counseling. We all know how important it is to have face-to-face connections, but the thought is if we can rapidly deploy contacts, then it'd be possible to create that face-to-face exchange, that face-to-face opportunity in a very short order after. This partnership that I'm currently describing right now is using existing resources and grant dollars that Integrated Services Kalamazoo had applied for. So at the moment, not tapping any of the funds the commission set aside. The thought is we're probably in the last couple stages of finalizing this partnership. And then we had still intended to go out with a request for proposals to look at how we can augment trauma counseling once we understand what the new base level is going to be with this partnership. So certainly the intent that we talked about with all of you in December to go out and look at identifying new partners will still be there. We can look at where there's still gaps in services once we understand the way that Integrated Services Kalamazoo and public safety will be able to augment their relationship to support community. The other piece I'd like to talk about really briefly is the housing repair, the idea that we would look to offer support for property owners that have had their property damaged with gunfire. Community planning, economic development staff have been working with public safety to get a list of all of the properties that have been affected by gunfire, figuring out how to do outreach to each of those property owners to let them know that there are resources available. Right now, we've had about 45 properties that we've identified that we've been able to do outreach, and by we, I should say, community planning, economic development staff working with public safety to do outreach. We've heard back from about 15 property owners expressing interest. We're also looking to identify contractors that can do home repair that we can offer up as resources, as well as working with individual property owners who may have identified someone to do the work themselves. So we would anticipate within the next month or so, we could start to see the home repair programs underway and can certainly provide you with more updates as that comes along. With that, I realize that was a lot of information in a very short period of time. I'd be happy to go into more detail now or follow up with additional conversations if I could be of help.
Thank you, DCM Lamb. Any brief questions at this point? Vice Mayor Griffin?
Thank you. Just a brief question. Do you happen to have a timeline? Well, backtrack. Thank you for the update. I appreciate that. Would you happen to have a timeline for the mental health services? And I realize that, and it's been stated before that things moving through municipalities don't necessarily move very fast. But I'm just very concerned because we're trauma from last year, trauma from this year. If I was in a shooting a year ago, and I haven't seen services and we're still working it out. So I'm just trying to figure out where we will be at with that. And then will there be counselors that are equipped to handle all sorts of things? Will the providers be as diverse as the people who need their services?
Sure. So I'll start with, at this point, everything we're looking at is likely to be in a pilot format just because of the resources. So at the moment, we know the budget may fluctuate, but if we're talking about between 25 and 50,000, the thought is how might we best leverage existing systems or resources to try. That won't be enough for us to be able to hire social workers, support counselors, and deploy in any significant way. So when I talk about first exploring relationships with Integrated Services Kalamazoo, that is one step of maximizing existing systems. The thought would be that we would put out a request for proposals, and certainly the criteria that we list out, I've got a running list that I've started that just based on the conversations that I've had with commissioners and what I've heard from you all, how critically important that cultural competency is, how critically important having a diverse staff is. So I see those criteria to say where we think there are gaps in services, here are those criteria we need partners to have. And we would look to partner with someone to start a process. But to be clear, if we were looking at any long-term or any scale of that program, we'd have to talk about significantly more resources coming to bear. I should pause and say, as I'm focusing on the pilot we initially talked about, I want to acknowledge how much Chief Coakley has talked about one of his goals and one of the city manager's goals of expanding social service coordination. So I'm focusing on a very small piece, and I'm realizing I should probably pause and see, Chief, if you want to add in. I know that you've had a number of conversations of how you're looking to augment and make sure that we can enhance in that way. So feel free to jump in here, or we can also kind of coordinate and update at another time.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, DCM Lamb. And to Vice Mayor's point, it is one of my huge projects, speaking with the leadership, reference to the trauma of this community and getting counseling services to those victims of trauma, also to the trauma of the victims of law enforcement as well, when officers respond to these incidents. But it's an ongoing progress. It's an ongoing in progress, but and you get municipalities, as you stated, the wheels are a little slow, but we're certainly putting our feet to the fire. As you stated, Vice Mayor, you're talking 2020, now we're into 2021. So it is work in progress, but thank you.
This is Laura, Deputy City Manager. Real quick, Vice Mayor, I didn't address your question of timing. We had originally said in December, we had hoped to get an RFP out in the first quarter of this year. What I'm looking at now is hoping it will be the second quarter, and that would allow us to just figure out details with the pilot with Integrated Services Kalamazoo and to put together that request for proposal. So my hope is we're not going to shift too far out. Certainly, we recognize the urgency, and we're always kind of pushing to get it as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, DCM Lamb. Anything else, Manager Ritzma?
Nothing, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any commissioner comments? All right, seeing none, we'll be seeing each other in just a few minutes for our regular business meeting. I'm sure that we all are praying that we'll have a safe evening in Kalamazoo tonight. Thank you for your work, and I'll see you in a few minutes. We're adjourned.